The day I stopped writing. The day I stopped writing, it was in 1942. My grandfather flew home on leave from Pearl Harbor to an emptied home in San Francisco. His wife, my grandmother, a long-legged brunette who liked operas and department store jewelry, placed my mother in an orphanage with her brother, who was born while grandfather flew into the history books. His sweet bird traveled off to Utah to chase those dreams of love, that hope of being envied, that glorious moment we all want for nothing and remember forever. She had the look of captured sunlight, the center of the room in her eye, the elegance of old photos that men would tame if they could. And two more tried, giving her each time a child like a bell. Twice again she left them. Twice she left them. All of those tomorrows, 4 lives full of sunrise and moon sets. Given to the care of strangers, bagged up like cauliflower, scallops, onions, handed over weeping like April mist. That first day, I came home, shunned by my only love. I thought of grandfather, the opening of his dry, hinged apartment door, him walking through that hardwood hallway, expectant, his footprints in the dust, turning corners, leaving rooms of familiar shapes with nothing to refurbish his pre-war hopes. Nothing but the light of the window behind him, his shadow ahead that seemed to move before he himself moved. Thank you, Dave.
I'm Steve Baker, the oldest brother. I know a lot of you guys, there's a lot of y'all I don't know. I'm just going to say one thing before I read this. I am the motherfucker who didn't necessarily lie that's mentioned in this poem. This is Flame. I was told once that poetry is about the language, and it's stuck for decades. But while it is certainly impossible without the chosen, an 8th grade insult is also about the language. Now I won't say that some motherfucker lied to me about poetry, but maybe, like cells in a fingertip, there were too many ways of going about poetry to count them all. And you lose people, even hungry students and learners, when you say soul. Soul, like poetry, is always insufficient. There are not enough letters to truly spell soul. Both soul and poetry are ultimately too tiny for the thing itself. Many aspects of a rich life become deficient when defined by language. What of silence? You see, it is better to say poetry is a flower, which has a green stem, and the stem has roots. and there is dirt and soil, and light falls from on high, which awakens the systemic whole, and petals reach for the sky, for other petals, for the nearest water, and the roots crawl also towards water, as life is impossible without water. Life is about water more than poetry is about language. But I'm only musing on this because I hate poems about poetry. They never do it for me. Certainly not like tonight when I turned off all the lights upstairs here where one of my legs is slowly dying. And I had lost all fear of death, so much so that I realized sight is most notable to the closed eye. And when the lights were all off, like closing the eye to this room, I lit a scented candle with its wick delving up from a plug of red handcrafted wax. And I put some Mingus on the speakers, and turned it up just right before I fell back into the chair in comfort, and I forgot all that I had known as the flame danced to the jazz, as if it too wanted to get away from that which kept it grounded.
Stay up here or you can stay?
My name's Marcia. David Smile. I don't know if I can do this. I want to read. First, I want to say thank you to Kent for everything he's done. Jen, Kent, I can't begin to say thank you enough. I want to read this, and I got Kent's permission. Kent wrote this, I guess, before he left to come down for David's visitation. I wasn't on Facebook at the time, so I didn't see it until about a year later. And I had to get somebody to teach me how to save it on Facebook, because I didn't know how to do that. But I did save it. This is for Dave with love. Amara, I'll be gone for a few days. I have to say goodbye to a friend. He wasn't your friend, she responds. He was your brother. That's why we called him Uncle Dave. I smiled at my daughter's wisdom. The 6-year-old mind is like a galaxy, forming and expanding.